Welcome everybody back. We are here with Off the Top's preview of AEW Worlds End from Long Island. Tonight we have obviously myself, Mr.Dubbs, and we have
myself, Kero, the GOAT. I'm excited to be here. You know what? I'm not a big fan of AEW like Mr.Dubbs, but last time I watched their pay-per-view, it was a lot of fun. Maybe it was because I watched it with you guys, but I'm kind of looking forward to this one.
That's good to hear. I mean, for me, I always find the builds to AEW pay-per-views are a little lackluster, but then the pay-per-views themselves they never seem to disappoint. So that is always something that I think they're working on. I think the storytelling leading up to this pay-per-view was a little bit better, even though the go-home show I thought was a little hit and miss. But here we've got 10 matches on the card. We'll start with the 0 hour. We are starting with a 20-man battle royal for a TNT title shot.
Okay.
Bearing in mind that the TNT title match later in the show is going to be a no disqualification match between Christian Cage and Adam Copeland. So who do you think makes sense? Obviously, there's going to be a bunch of jobbers in the battle royal, but you're going to get a few bigger stars. So who do you think is most likely to win this TNT title shot? Who do you think makes sense to either feud with Christian Cage next or Adam Copeland next?
Well, before I answer that question, I gotta say, when you said there's 10 matches, it never hit me before. But just today, or was it yesterday, we learned that Sean Spears actually said he's leaving AEW. So that's interesting. Mr. Perfect 10 is leaving. That reminded me of
I was not aware of that.
Yeah, I said, I'm out of here. It's a personal choice. No disrespect. As for this Battle Royale, I'm not sure exactly who will win. I'll say this for sure, though. It's going to be fun. I love Battle Royales, and it's a great match to just open the pay-per-view with. Like, who's in it? I'll be honest. I don't know too much who's in it.
I don't think they've announced really anybody to be in it. I mean, maybe you've got maybe they've announced 2 or 3 people, but I think you're just going to get a lot of the job squad, people that just don't get a lot of TV time. I think you'll have the Mogul Embassy, probably like a Bryan Cage. Maybe we see Luchasaurus. I don't know if he's still out for storyline, maybe, but see guys like Top Flight, Action and Andretti.
right.
Just the job squad that's normally on Rampage or on ROH. And then you'll get a couple of stars who just didn't make the card. So far we know from the Continental Classic, people that don't have a match on the card. We have Claudio Castagnoli has no match on the card.
Okay.
We have Bryan Danielson, who have no match on the card. I thought they were going to have them have a one-on-one match because Claudio wanted to avenge the draw and didn't make it further in the tournament. I thought maybe they were going to do that. Since they didn't do that, I don't see them keeping Bryan off this card.
Right.
But do I care to see Bryan Danielson in this match if he's not going to win? I mean, obviously the beauty of a battle royal, as with the Royal Rumble, always is you can spin off, go into directions based on who eliminates who in a battle royal, and you can set up feuds that way. So they could have whoever Danielson's next feud is going to be eliminate him. You could go that route. But I'm trying to think of who makes sense to face Christian Cage or Adam Copeland. And if they win this, are they just say Adam Copeland wins the TNT title shot? I'm not saying that's my prediction, but if he were to win, I don't think they would just take the title off him right away. So is this just going to be a random, it doesn't matter who wins because they're just going to be the first person to lose to Adam Copeland if he were to win? So I don't really know where they're going to go. They could have a big star win it. They might not. But so far, based on the biggest name I can think of that's not on the card right now is obviously Bryan Danielson.
Yeah.
And then a second being Claudio Castagnoli. So I could see either of them winning it. Otherwise, I mean, you've got your Bryan Cages, and then otherwise it's like the job squad, right? Orange Cassidy, if he's not in that 8-man tag, then he's another big name for them. It's off the card, so I could easily see Orange Cassidy winning, even though he's already got a title. I mean, they could, So they have so many titles that it's like, who doesn't already have a title,
exactly.
Right? So I don't know. For the TNT title shot, I'm just going to randomly throw out my pick is, don't want to say Danielson because I don't unless they build up that match for the next pay-per-view between him and Adam Copeland or him and Christian Cage. I don't know. Danielson's not on the card. He's the biggest name. I'm just going to go with Danielson.
Okay,
I just don't even know who else is in this.
I would have gone with Danielson too because Edge.
You can.
has a limited time, and I'm sure he just wants to wrestle with the best amount of like best wrestlers that he wants to wrestle to. And Bryan Danielson.
But we don't know if Adam Copeland's going to be the one winning that TNT title match. Christian's having the best run of his career right now. Do you want to derail that momentum? That's another thing, right? So you can think of maybe a babyface that wins this. Danielson can play heel or face, like in that match with Eddie Kingston, he played heel. So I think he's a person that can play either side. But yeah, I mean, who else is there? Who do you think?
Well, I definitely don't think, let me say this, Bryan Danielson is not winning because, I don't know, it just doesn't feel like it to me, especially because he's got like a thing going on over there in Japan with Okada too.
He's going to, gotcha. Right, right. But then winning this doesn't mean he's going to cash in his TNT title shot next week on Dynamite.
No.
This could be the feud for Revolution, right?
But
if you get a big name winning it, right?
Yeah, I look at it like maybe in Tony Khan's eyes, like Bryan's already got something big going on. Maybe use this opportunity to, like, what do you call it? Rise somebody up that needs an opportunity. And I've been looking at the AEW roster so far, and it's really difficult to tell, man. Really difficult to tell. Like, I would say, for example, Daniel Garcia, because why not? But he's in another match, right? 8-man tag team. So he's probably not going to be in the Battle Royale.
For people not in the match, Penta?
I mean, that'll be out of nowhere, but man.
Is Wardlow in a match?
That's what I was thinking. Wardlow. If this was for the AEW Championship, I would have said Wardlow, like no doubt. TNT Championship, he's been there, done that. And so that's why I cannot say Wardlow as well. Like this is super difficult to predict. Maybe someone we don't know at all that's in AEW will debut here and like shock us all.
That's a very good point because the 90 days are over, right? For like Dolph Ziggler and Mustafa Ali, guys like that. So maybe you get a Mustafa Ali debut, wins a TNT title shot, boom.
That's a great point. I am officially saying Dolph Ziggler is going to debut and win this Battle Royale. And we're going to start off like just all the way at the top.
There you go. Cool. Okay. Dolph Ziggler against either Adam Copeland or Christian Cage.
Yeah.
Keeping with the WWE match. I don't feel like those are fresh matches for either guy, but All right, so you've got Dolph Ziggler, I've got Bryan Danielson. We really don't know what to expect here.
Yeah.
It also is on the 0 hour. So are you going to do a big debut on the 0 hour, or maybe that's you see one big debut. Maybe we're going to get a bigger one later on the show. So who knows? But we'll move on to the FTW title match. We have Hook versus Wheeler Yuta, which is a program that got set up weeks and weeks ago and then just wasn't mentioned on the TV at all until they basically announced this match is actually going to finally happen for the FTW title. So strange booking on it, but no surprise there with AEW as of late. I just don't see like the FTW title it's basically just Hook's title. Like it's not even officially recognized in AEW. Like what does that even mean? It's on the show. And you have so many belts. So you're saying this belt should mean even less than the rest? Like, kind of crazy. And they're debuting a new championship, remember, on this show as well.
Nice.
But my pick for this one, I think Hook's going to win. I think he wins by, whatever.
By hook or crook.
By whatever the submission. What does he call it? Red rum.
Red rum. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think. But I don't think. Well, no. I don't think they need to protect Yuta that much. I think Yuta can tap to it. He doesn't have to go out. He doesn't have to go to sleep. So yeah, I think Yuta will tap to the red rum. That's my prediction. I'm
right behind you. I mean, like, I like Yuta simply because he looks like me. But the thing is,
that's kind of true. I never thought about that. That's you got similar facial structure, some beard hair. Yeah.
People say that to me all the time, so that's how I got it. But like Hook, his debut was his biggest moment to me. And now, after so long, he's getting a legit pay-per-view match. Like, I don't remember him doing anything this big in a while. So, he has to win in this stage. Like, he definitely has to win. You tried with Yuta a little bit, like, booking him, giving him a win. Not even a win, but I think he lost to Moxley, but, like, he had an insane match. You tried with, what's his name? Wheeler Yuta. But Hook, like, I need this to be his like step up moment, like from stuff with Danhausen and leave all that behind, go to mid card, do the FTW championship match. Like, I want him to be in a position like how Darby is, or how what's his face, Jungle Boy, Jack Perry is. Like, start to raise him up with this match to that position. I think that's what's supposed to happen, and I think actually it's what's going to happen. So Hook is my pick for this.
I can't disagree with you in anything you just said there. I agree with everything. I think Hook he's got something, you know what I mean? He's got that bottled up, something a little special, but he had such a strong debut. He seemed like such a strong character. And then it just felt like he wasn't really focused on for months and months. And that seems to be a recurring problem with a lot. They just too many toys in the toy box that you just forget about some of them, right?
Yeah.
Like coming up later on, we have Swerve against Keith Lee, which was a match that they set up for over a year ago and then just completely dropped the program entirely.
Yeah.
And now Swerve is like becoming the biggest star they have in the company, the biggest rising star in the company. Whereas if they'd had that match a year ago when they should have, Swerve did all the damage to Keith Lee. It only made sense that Keith Lee was going to get his revenge and win. Instead, they just did nothing for a year. But we'll get into that because the first match we see, I think, obviously we don't know the order if this is what's going to be opening the show or not. But we have Miro versus Andrade El Idolo.
Ooh.
What do you think about this match?
It smells like Collision to me. Well, early Collision when CM Punk used to be in the company. Miro versus Andrade El Idolo. Man, I just see that Andrade is in a lot of hot water. I don't think he's like in a particularly good position in backstage. But Miro, he's in this storyline. Not the greatest storyline, but I feel like Tony Khan is trying to, again, revitalize him, push him. So that's why I'm going to give Miro the edge. He's going to take this. And even though I don't like his storyline, it's super weird to me. I think they're going to continue that. So I think Andrade is taking the loss.
Fair. I mean, I don't know how much you were following the Continental Classic, especially on the Blue League side, which was predominantly on Collision, which, by the way, it actually happened, especially the later rounds and the semifinals that they did on Collision just this past week. Their ratings for Collision have been increasing every week that the tournament's been going on. So it did what they set out to accomplish. And I think that's why Bryan, like Danielson, was mainly kept to that, was to try and boost the profile of Collision. So the tournament, I think, did a lot of what they set out to do. It told a lot of stories. The story between Miro and Andrade, they couldn't really tell. That was also the double-edged sword of the tournament, was because you couldn't really tell the stories of what was going to be coming up to the pay-per-view until people were officially eliminated from the tournament.
Right.
Like if they were going to have a storyline with people outside of the tournament, and because there was no interference, disqualification, blah, 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 all that stuff, they weren't able to tell some of these stories. And I think this is one of them, because did you even know that Lana is Andrade's manager right now, currently?
Yeah, that's the only thing I know. Yeah.
Like, I didn't even know if you knew that, right? Because they weren't really allowed to have the managers come out more than just to the stage. So Andrade is the first client that's a real client, that's not just like more of a job guy that she's been behind that he just beats up like that. Andrade's been booked really strong in this tournament. It looked like he was going to be going to the semis anyways, against Bryan at least. So he was booked really strong in this tournament, had a really great outing for himself. And I don't know if he takes a loss, but Miro, if you actually look at his AEW record, he very seldomly ever loses. Like, he lost in that one match where they needed a filler or a replacement or something, where it was against Bryan Danielson, and the winner got, I think, a world title shot or something like that. They had, I think, Danielson go over. But Miro has, I think, only lost maybe 4 matches, maybe 5 matches total on AEW. Like, they do protect him. He just doesn't wrestle
a lot,
weekly and often. And he doesn't get a lot of great stories. So, I mean, I do think Miro takes this just because of his win-loss record and how they've been protecting him. And like you said, Andrade could be in hot water, but they've definitely done a very good job of rehabilitating Andrade, at least in my eyes, just through the tournament alone. They really showcased him really well, because what he does best is he's a great wrestler, right? He's a great in-ring performer. But yeah, so I think I agree with you. I'm going to go with Miro on this one. Makes sense to me. The next match on the list here is the match I'm looking forward to, maybe the most on the card, if not my number 2 or 3 at worst match. just because it's got the hottest star outside of CM Punk in wrestling right now. Swerve Strickland.
Okay.
I swerve when I drive. I swerve when I drive. I think you're looking at your next AEW champion after whoever wins between MJF and Samoa Joe, I think is dropping the title to Swerve Strickland. Whether it's Joe that wins because MJF's injured, or MJF can power through and get through another pay-per-view cycle, I think Strickland is who you have to put that title on. It only makes sense to me, so I definitely don't see any way that Keith Lee wins this match. I mean, the story building up to it a year ago should have had Keith Lee win because he had a cinder block broken over him.
That's
by
true.
Strickland. Yeah. They had us, and he put him on the injured list for months.
Mm-hmm.
And he came back, and then nothing was done with the story until now. And again, another part of he got eliminated from the tournament. They dropped the hints that Keith Lee is talking about him, and then finally noticed that it was Swerve. And then, but they still had to wait till Swerve was out of the tournament for him to even address it. So another part of that double-edged sword booking. But I definitely think Swerve's taking this one. I love Swerve. He's the biggest babyface in the company, and he hasn't done anything differently. He hasn't changed his mannerisms. He didn't shave the beard. You know, he didn't do anything overtly to be like, I'm a babyface now. He's just grown with the fans so much, even in a storyline with Hangman Page, where he was home invading him, going after, like, talking to his baby over his crib. Like, that is some heelish stuff. And yet, coming out of that program, he's the biggest babyface in the company, I would argue right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the fans on this week's Dynamite in a match against Bryan Danielson a match against Jon Moxley and Jay White.
Right.
Fans didn't care about anybody but Swerve. They just kept on chanting, I swerve when I drive, or whose house? Swerve's house. Like, just, all through the entire match. Biggest star in the company, in my opinion, right now. So I just can't bet against him. I wish Keith Lee was booked better. I love the guy. I hope his health is okay, because I think that might play into why he hasn't been getting more of a push and why he hasn't been featured more. And I also don't understand why he chose or why they had him come back with all the gray hair.
As an old man, right?
Right? It's like old man Keith Lee. Like, what is the gimmick here?
Mm-hmm.
And then randomly, he just had his hair dyed again and was back to black. And I'm like, why do you have him come back? Like, look how AJ Styles comes back. And look what he looks like. And look what they had Keith Lee come back after months. Great. It's like,
it's the reverse.
Are you okay? Are you dying? Like, what is, you know what I mean? Like, what am I supposed to think? So I just think Keith Lee has been fumbled so hard in AEW, but I think part of it might be health concerns, because I heard he, could have died apparently from whatever illness he had, whether it was COVID or something else. I don't know.
I can tell you real quick. It was, I think, like, his blood circulation was in trouble, and then COVID added to it. So he had heart troubles.
Okay.
And that's why he's a lot more slowed down now, like in the ring as well.
Okay. So again, I just hope he's in good health. He's a wonderful performer. I enjoy watching him. Anytime I see him on my television screen, I light up. I love Keith Lee, and I hope for big things for him. But most importantly, I hope he's in good health and he's able to, to go for a long time to come. But in this match, I mean, I'm sorry, I can't bet against Swerve in any match at this point.
No, it's completely fair. And I'm going to go Swerve as well. It's easy to see. You touched on many of the big points. And I just want to reiterate again, like, how weird it is that we had this storyline start so long ago, disappear out of nowhere. I forgot. Like, the more you told me about the feud, I was like, oh yeah, that happened. Oh yeah, that happened. Why didn't it, like, reach the conclusion? Even if the conclusion was super bad, like, we didn't like it at all, at least give us an ending or something like that. And so this just feels to me like Tony Khan was like, oh crap, Swerve is getting hot. Okay, we'll do this, we'll do this. What are we going to do for this pay-per-view, World's End? Oh shit, we got nothing for Swerve. All right, you know what? Keith Lee, we'll just put him in there with him, and you know what? It'll work out. So it just seems really last minute. And from the way you said things, the booking is also, like, very lackluster. It doesn't make much sense. Like, I would love for Keith Lee to, for example, hey, there are no disqualifications, or like interferences in the tournament, but Keith Lee says, screw it. Or someone is a heel here. Let's make Keith Lee a heel. He says, screw it. He beats up the ref. Like at the very beginning of the tournament, just gets like a huge fine, battles against something. I don't know. Like you could do anything, to be honest with you. It's weird that they didn't do it. So storyline wise, honestly, I got zero expectations, but Keith Lee and Swerve, this is a big stage, a big chance for them. I think they're going to put everything on the line, and it's going to be a fun match to watch, just like every single other match in this pay-per-view. But unfortunately, again, just like most of the other matches in this pay-per-view, it just lacks in substance. That's my biggest concern with AEW. Like, again, last time when I watched the pay-per-view, I had fun. But like long term, that's where the trouble comes in. But Swerve is taking this one. Maybe we'll have another cinder block moment with Keith Lee trying to now do the same to Swerve. But yeah, expecting a good match, fun match with Swerve taking the W.
So, do you want a fun fact about how long this story has been playing out for?
Okay, can I guess?
Swerve in Our Glory, Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland initially won the tag team titles in July 13th, 2022.
Ooh.
They lost the titles to the Acclaimed.
Okay.
And were having problems. The whole story throughout their entire tag title run was that Swerve was doing heel stuff and trying to be a heel. Mm-hmm. Keith Lee was being a babyface. Fine. They lost the titles on September 21st, 2022. So you can say that this storyline started July 2022 when they won the titles, or you can start it from when they lost the titles. Either way, this has been going on a story that was started in September 21st, over a year ago of 2022. And the match should have taken place at the very latest at the next, 2 pay-per-views later, because they only have a pay-per-view every few months. The fact that a year and a half later, and it's not like this is an ongoing, wonderful, long-term. This isn't long-term booking, Tony Khan.
This is not what we mean.
This is not what we mean. We don't mean pick up and finish the story. That would be like Cody Rhodes just not being
existing,
on TV and then not existing, and then all of a sudden it's like in 3 years they just have him pop up at WrestleMania 1. Look, we finished the story. It's like no, what's going on here?
Yeah.
So it's so weird to me the way he books sometimes. I'm looking forward to the match, though. I do.
You do. You froze, Mr.Dubbs. I'm sure you can hear me. I'll tell you when you're unfrozen. But yeah, I am looking forward to the match as well. Like I said, it's going to be super duper fun. And Dubbs is still frozen. Usually. You're back.
Okay. Am I?
Yeah.
Perfect. But I can. I definitely think this could be match of the night. I think this match could definitely steal the show with the 2 athletes in there.
You think
if Keith Lee's 100%, I definitely think this could be match of the night.
Could it be better than Adam Page and Swerve?
No.
Okay.
The story's not there. Like,
exactly.
The story was there a year ago.
Exactly.
But even leading into this match, we didn't even get a video package.
Oh yeah.
Of Keith Lee getting the cinder blocks broken on. Like, why? Just give us the story that you told a year and a half ago. Mm-hmm. Fine. At least use that. You have that.
Yeah.
Use it. They didn't use it at all. No video packages, nothing. So I mean, I hope they at least get time, which I think they will. And yeah, I think it'll be a great match.
See, I'll just say
I don't think.
One last thing about this match. One thing that would be really cool is like, I would again have Keith Lee as a heel, and Swerve is like, in the cusp of doing the biggest thing in his career. Maybe he's going to win the AEW World Heavyweight Championship finally. And that's where Keith Lee comes in and costs him. And you could re-pick up the rivalry from that point. And Keith Lee's pretext or his excuse could be like, I just bided my time, waited for the perfect moment to ruin you because of what you did with that cinder block. Like, I don't know, anything like that. But yeah, that's all I got to say about it.
I love it. You know what? Again, like I said, I love Swerve so much. I think it'll be a great match, and I hope Keith Lee gets booked better going forward after this match.
Hopefully.
But our next match on the docket is a match that came together at the very last minute. I don't understand why this wasn't just set as the way they set it up. I thought it was going to be a 4-way tag team title match, like a 4-team match. Instead, they're just doing a 4-on-4 match where we had the return of Sammy Guevara because, of course, for those unfamiliar, but I'm sure most are familiar, is that the match that was supposed to take place was Ricky Starks and Big Bill defending the tag titles against the Golden Jets, Chris Jericho and Kenny Omega. the reason they're in the tag team and they've been keeping Kenny in the tag team is because he has been nursing injuries and so on. It turned out he's got diverticulitis, so sadly he's out indefinitely. I'm hoping for a speedy recovery and he's able to come back from this. Really, really heartbreaking to see that happen. He's such a big star, and I think they were going to get the tag titles. I think that was going to be the story going forward. The suggestion was made because I was like, who do we replace if we get this match? I think Bryan said, well, we're watching Dynamite. He was thinking like Sammy Guevara. And then Sammy Guevara shows up, right?
Damn.
So it was like, oh, okay, we're getting the tag team title match with Jericho and Guevara. Did you know going into Dynamite this week that Sammy Guevara was in the Don Callis family? Because we didn't.
I had no idea. The Don Callis, I thought he just returned. He just showed up.
No. So what happened was the Don Callis family came out and they had a bunch of paintings, which I always think is, it was so weird because we haven't heard from the Don Callis family in weeks and weeks and weeks.
Right.
But for some reason, those fans were so into booing the ever-loving crap out of Don Callis.
Okay.
Like every time he spoke, had the microphone, he was being booed out of the building like WWE pops in boos for Dominic. Like it was hilarious. Just booing out of the building. And then he revealed he had like 4 paintings up for all the guys. It was a Boxing Day because he's Canadian. He said it was a Boxing Week special, and he got everybody gifts for the holidays. And one had him in Powerhouse, one had him and Kyle Fletcher, one had him. My favorite one was him and Takeshita, and it was just great. And the last one was covered up, and then the promo happened. Sammy Guevara's music hit. And they said, because he's the fun, he's like, oh, great, you're here. The prodigal son returns, whatever, because he just had his baby and everything. So he shows up. I was unaware. Don Callis mentions how it's nice that he shows up to work, but that he is in the he's in the Don Callis family. I don't ever remember the story of him being in the Don Callis family, him losing. I vaguely remember like the feud with the Chris Jericho thing and that, but completely forgot. And then Sammy Guevara was getting mad at Don Callis. So you saw there was immediately going to be turning.
Yeah.
But it was just so weird the way they did it. He reveals he's had this gift for Sammy Guevara he's been parading it around from city to city to city, just in case that Sammy Guevara decided to show up to work. I thought that line was fantastic. I love that. But it's a beautiful picture of just the Don Callis family. And front and center, Sammy Guevara holding his baby. And I thought it was actually a really nice painting. But then for no reason, Sammy, I've got my notes here. I just got it. Sammy went crazy over, I've got a lot of notes here. But and Sammy Guevara went crazy over the fact that his kid was on the painting.
Okay.
And was just getting into his face. It was so weird. Sammy was supposed to be playing a baby face, and the fans were behind him. They were chanting for Sammy, which, again, I was shocked by. But I didn't understand what Don Callis did wrong, other than taking cheap shots at him and actually having funny one-liners.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so I found it here. He says, Don calling Sammy out for taking a 5-month vacation for being hurt and having a baby. Now you have a choice. Okay, so this is when it got into it. He says, you have a choice. Oh, right. Here's the case. This was the big thing. Sorry. I had to find it here. I forgot because I forgot Dynamite. I'm glad I had these notes though. But Sammy cut a promo blaming Don Callis for Tony Khan's terrible booking of Takeshita and Will Hobbs. He said it's Don Callis's fault that they've done nothing with Hobbs since beating Jericho and nothing with Takeshita after beating Kenny Omega twice.
Right.
I'm like, how are you putting this on Don Callis for Tony Khan's? You're basically just pointing out the poor booking that people probably forgot about. I thought it was so strange to bring this up. And then the beautiful painting that set Sammy off, Sammy said, who the hell told you to put my baby on that? again, thought it was a beautiful gift personally,
Yeah.
but he apparently was mad about it. So then Don came back and said he called him out for taking 5 months off, and he says now you have a choice. You either pick the other family or the Don Callis family. And I thought the segment was so strange, but Don says Sammy is going to be as big of a failure as a parent as he is a wrestler. Another great one-liner from Don Callis.
Yeah.
Like Don Callis just picked Guevara apart in these promos, and Guevara's promos were like Tony Khan sucks as a booker. It was such a strange segment for me to watch. I didn't understand what was going on, but obviously the line with the failure as a parent line. Sammy then hits Don. The whole Don Callis family jumps him, and they're beating him down. And then Chris Jericho's music hits. He runs out, makes the save with the bat, clears everybody out of the ring. And I was so confused by all this. But then out of nowhere, now that Jericho's cleared out the Don Callis family, we got Big Bill and Starks for no reason. I guess they're still mad at Jericho, even though they're not having a match because Kenny Omega's injured. But they came out, beat down Jericho. And as they're beating down Jericho, then the lights go out. And Bryan and I are watching this live. And I'm saying to Bryan, I'm like, oh yeah, we haven't seen Sting and Darby Allin in a while. I don't think this is the House of Black. I'm pretty sure it's Sting and Darby Allin. Lo and behold, the lights go on. There's Sting and Darby. And so they come to the rescue. Big Bill and Ricky Starks bail out of the ring. And then it's just the most random thing where we had all these intertwining parts. And I was thinking, okay, obviously it's the reason for Big Bill and Starks. I was like, they're setting up Jericho and Sammy as the tag title match. But then we get Sting and Darby out of nowhere because I'm like, then what was the point of the Don Callis family in all this? Then Sting and Darby came out. I'm like, so then are we doing a 4-way tag meet match with 2 of the members of the Don Callis family? And then Sting and Darby, are they going to put the titles on Sting and Darby as part of Sting's retirement? Give them the title. Like, I just didn't know where they were going.
Yeah.
Anyways, sorry for the weird booking of Dynamite. I'm glad I still had those notes. But what we've got out of this is an 8-man tag, which I don't think anyone's excited about or cares about.
Yeah.
But it's between Chris Jericho, Sammy Guevara, Darby Allin, and Sting versus Ricky Starks, Big Bill, Powerhouse Hobbs, and Kyle Fletcher. Not even Takeshita.
Yeah.
Because when Sammy cut the promo saying Takeshita beat Omega twice, and you did nothing with him. And Powerhouse Hobbs beat Chris Jericho, he did nothing with him. And then he didn't even talk about Kyle Fletcher, and Kyle Fletcher was just kind of gave a look too, like that he wasn't even mentioned. But Kyle Fletcher's the one in the match. Why is it not Takeshita in the match? So even this part of the booking doesn't make any sense. So this is my Tony Khan has too many action figures. I'm going to put them all in a ring match. This and the 20-man battle royal. So there you go. Get everybody on the card. It's WrestleMania season, guys. Like, just get everyone on the card.
I don't know about action figures, but he definitely has too much of something else with this booking. Like, I'm so confused at this point.
It's so confused. This was the most confusing segment on the show by far. And there's a new audio device, but just
it's okay.
But my pick to win this match,
good luck.
You're not going to beat Sting on his retirement, I guess. I was thinking in my head, you need to be booking Hobbs stronger. Give Hobbs the win over Sammy, but he's returning, so over Jericho again. But I'm like, you're not going to beat Sting on his way out, so Sting gets the win or Darby Allin gets the win then over Kyle Fletcher, I guess, is in there to take the pin. So
Team Sting. Okay.
That's my pick. It's going to be either Sting or Darby Allin pins Kyle Fletcher. Maybe it's a Sammy Guevara pin, but I think just Sting or Allin. Either way, I think Kyle Fletcher's taking the pin. But definitely those 4 guys are winning. That's my prediction.
Knowing this booking, I wouldn't even be surprised if like Hobbs took the pin from Sting. Like, I honestly wouldn't be surprised.
Oh no.
Yeah.
They could totally do that, but I hope not.
I don't know. Like, this is kind of like the Battle Royale match where like it could literally go anywhere. And I would not be shocked. Like, I can see the heels winning totally as well. If you ask me why, I have no idea. But looking at the booking of the segments, just one segment. There are more segments. Let's forget about them. Just one segment is so confusing. Like, I don't even know who's the good guy, who's the bad guy, who's fighting who, for what reason. Man. Who do I like in this match
This is the
most?
pinnacle. This match is the pinnacle of Tony Khan's work.
Yeah.
It is just that whole segment was different.
I'm gonna say, just look, I'm not saying this with my brain, I'm saying this with my heart. I want Will Hobbs to win. Just dominate everybody.
Sure.
Turn on his teammates as well. Just destroy the ref and stand tall as a sole survivor, dude. Will Hobbs is picking up the win, in my opinion. Yeah.
I would love to see Will Hobbs just decimate everybody and walk out.
Yeah.
And then Sting just comes up from behind, Scorpion Death Drop match over.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Whoa.
Just let Will Hobbs just destroy everything. But the Don Callis, I don't hate the Don Callis family.
Me neither, by the way.
Don't. And the only reason I think Kyle Fletcher is there is because Will Ospreay's still not back for TV yet, because he had a deal with Don Callis.
Yeah.
Originally, that was the original story. But it's just weird that it's such a weird combination of people.
What's Takeshita doing?
Takeshita was the first one he sought out to take out Kenny Omega, and he beat him twice.
Yes. No, why is he not in this match? Nothing. You mentioned it, but I still don't get it.
Somebody has to take the pin. That's the only reason I have for that. Kyle Fletcher has to take the pin. That's the only reason I see him in this match.
Okay.
Only reason at all is he's taking the pin.
I'm going to pivot it. Do you think Takeshita will be in the Battle Royale, and do you think he will win it? Because we didn't think about him. He's a good contender.
I think it's great. And you know what? I think that would be a great match for if Adam Copeland wins the TNT title. I think he's because he's a heel. He's got a heel group to have the extra added. We've got numbers, and he would be able to get it. He will have a great match with just about anybody, and I'm sure Adam Copeland would look forward to working with someone like him. So I think that's a strong pick for you for the Battle Royal. I think that's a strong pick. I'm sticking with I don't know what they're doing with Bryan Danielson. Why not?
Right.
I'm not going to change my pick, but I think I honestly think Takeshita's more likely than Bryan Danielson.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough.
That would make sense though. At least to get him on the card, right?
Mm-hmm.
So next up, we have the AEW TBS title match. Julia Hart versus Abaddon.
Okay.
So Abaddon is, I guess, a babyface because Julia Hart's clearly still a heel, even though whether the fans like her or not, she's clearly the heel. So Abaddon, to me, that gimmick is just strange for a babyface. It was always kind of weird, like when The Undertaker was a babyface. It's more of a heel gimmick, right? You know what I mean?
For sure.
But the Darkness character is always more of a heel thing, but I definitely don't see them taking that title off Julia Hart. I think Abaddon is somebody to me that when she first came back before as they were setting up this feud, I think I pointed it out to everybody when we were watching Dynamite.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, what do you guys think? Maybe it was even on a Collision when we were doing something else and I just brought it up. What do you think Abaddon's record is? Because the only thing I ever remember seeing her do on Dynamite or on TV when I've seen her is lose.
Yeah.
And her record, and I've probably seen her lose 4 or 5 times. I think her record was something like 70 and 5 or something ridiculous like that, where it's like, where did you have all these matches? On Ring of Honor television or on Dark or like, so they have this amazing record for her, which is great. I definitely I think the only reason she's brought back is for a contender for Julia to beat.
Yeah.
But where are these records coming from? She had like a better record than Jade Cargill, except for she had like 4 or 5 losses. Yeah. But I'd only ever seen her on TV losing. So that was strange. Anyways, my pick's Julia. What do you think?
Yeah, that 75 to 5 problem should go away now that Elevation and Dark, all of that is gone. Same thing, man. I'm not going to spend any more time on this. Julia is taking the victory. Abaddon, I think she's actually like very close to the door, meaning she's going to be out of AEW quite soon, in my opinion. So they're like, okay, we need literally anybody to fill this position. Abaddon, get in there. So
I thought it was an interesting gimmick. The dead person zombie gimmick's never really been my thing.
Mm-hmm.
I loved it when The Undertaker did it, but anything after that, it's not really my thing. My girlfriend always refers to the Dark characters as the Hills Have Eyes characters, whether it was the Bludgeon Brothers, whether it's the House of Black. rest in peace, Brody Lee, but like the whole Wyatt family and everything to her was always just a hills have eyes kind of thing. And she just gets creeped out by it. She doesn't like the gimmick. I think it's kind of funny like that.
Yeah.
I like those characters, but Abaddon just doesn't do anything for me. Really doesn't.
I think those type of characters need extreme dedication and a good amount of talent as well, which I like. No
There's
disrespect.
a lot of vignettes too.
Yeah.
You can need vignettes.
Yeah. Especially nowadays, like, I don't know, it's a common discussion, right? People have, but like, how do you get someone over with a Darksider gimmick or, like a supernatural gimmick? It's tough.
It's always been vignettes. I mean, that tag team that they brought in to lose at to MJF in a handicap match by himself. I forget, the Righteous or something.
Something like that.
They had cool vignettes going in, and then they made a mockery of them and a joke of a debut, getting just their asses kicked by MJF in a handicap match. Did nothing for them. You never seen them since, and I'm like, these looked like they could have been interesting characters.
Right. So
they had cool vignettes.
Sean Spears, the man we talked about leaving AEW today, says something like in most of his interviews, which I completely agree with, which is also apropos to this situation. Presentation is everything. And the way you say, like, I remember that match with MJF. Like, it was ridiculous. Like, how do you ever get them back from that?
Completely buried.
Yeah.
Like, it was like the Butcher and the Blade when they debuted.
Right.
I thought the Butcher had such a unique look to him and his mannerisms and his walk. I was like, these guys are going to be big stars. They had the bunny with them and everything, their presentation. And then they just got jobbed right out the door. They never did vignettes with them or anything. And I was like, why? And then the Righteous, I saw the vignettes. I'm like, cool. They're introducing. They have a very Wyatt family vibe, but I'm going to give it a chance. And then they just jobbed them out in their debut match. And I'm like, why even put in the time then? Why the vignettes were to build him up to lose in a handicap match to MJF? Like, it's so puzzling. And then you don't get vignettes for someone like Abaddon could have, before bringing her back, you could have done vignettes for like a month. A 2-minute vignette once a week. She's coming, and then she makes it clear she's coming for Julia Hart. That's way more impactful than just having her randomly show up, squash some jobber, and then you're like, oh, Abaddon's on TV.
Right.
Okay?
I find myself thinking, like, do something, anything. This phrase comes to my mind in this storyline and the last match we talked about and the match before that. I don't know why they're like treating us as like McDonald's instead of giving it more thought. Like, no, we want to have the moment right now, no preparation, just as quick as possible, and we're going to be done with it. Why? We're not going anywhere. We'll be watching next week if you do it well. I don't know. Let's just move
MJF
on.
Kenny Omega on Collision.
Yeah.
Like, prime example, I understand the need to maybe have the match before you might never have it. Because, I mean, Kenny Omega may never come back to wrestling. We don't know. He's 40 years old. He's not 20 years old getting diverticulitis. It's a really serious injury. He may never be the same again.
Yeah.
He was my candidate for match of the year this year, and he may never wrestle again, which would be a tragedy. I love that man's in-ring work, and I wish we got the cleaner Kenny Omega in AEW from the start. Make him your first world champion. Have him established.
Oh my God, yeah.
Have the Young Bucks as your first tag team champions. Have the reason they're in the name of the company be shown to a Western audience. Don't assume your 100,000 fans that watch them in Japan that are coming over to watch them here are your whole audience. You had over 1 million people for that debut Dynamite. I think it was close to 1.5 million. You had, 300,000-400,000 tune out the very next week? Because they're like, oh. Like, nobody knew who they were. The majority of that fan base didn't know who they were.
Yeah.
And you didn't present them as stars right away. You were too afraid to be like, they're EVPs. We don't want to book ourselves strong.
Right.
Never give wrestlers titles or booking power or anything. It's the worst, always been the worst decision. It's what killed WCW.
Yeah.
It's what ruined it. And I mean, it's so sad to think that this company's 5 years old now, and Kenny Omega isn't on the level of Roman Reigns. I would have been happy if you made Kenny Omega the inaugural champion or whatever, when he did win the title, let him hold it for 3 years. Like, I think he had injuries and stuff and he had to drop it and everything, but I think Kenny Omega was not done justice in this company. He was put in way too many tag teams, way too many trios, but maybe that's just his style because we're used to seeing him in Japan, but he only has to do that once every 2 months or 3 months. and he doesn't have to wrestle week to week. So maybe his style just can't go on a weekly basis. But I just think it's such a tragedy that,
I
Kenny Omega isn't the biggest star from AEW, bar none. It's great that we have an MJF or a Swerve Strickland or anything, but you had the guy that everybody was talking about before your company was a thing,
exactly.
and you didn't make him the focal point.
See,
He
that's
had a great.
another interesting thing. We don't have the Young
That's the
Bucks.
biggest fumble of AEW to me.
Yeah.
CM Punk isn't the biggest fumble of AEW to me.
Yeah.
Kenny Omega is the biggest fumble of AEW to me.
That's a good point. I mean, none of the elite now, even Hangman Page, is he on this pay-per-view? Maybe, maybe not.
Nope.
But besides, no, he's not. Okay,
so there you go. He could be in the Battle Royal. He might win the Battle Royal.
Maybe. But like you literally have none of the OG guys that could have been your biggest stars. Me personally, I loved Kenny Omega in New Japan. Again, going back to what we just said, presentation. When he went to that one New Japan match with Will Ospreay, I was like, what is this? Am I in a different universe right now? This is the Kenny Omega that I wanted, that I loved. Like, I was... Honestly, he was my favorite wrestler back in when he was feuding with Okada and all that in the peak of his New Japan run. I wanted that Kenny Omega. What we got was very, very, what is it? PGW, Pro Wrestling Guerrilla or whatever. It's
lame.
Yeah.
We got a terrible heel gimmick with Don Callis.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just, it was cool when he was the belt collector. I was enjoying it just because it's I want you pushing this guy as the reason to watch AEW. He's what you've never had in WWE. Right. The whole company should have been built around Kenny Omega, in my opinion. The whole company. CM Punk coming in, Bryan Danielson coming in, all these big names. That's great. But you have your Steve Austin. You can bring all these guys in from other places to wrestle him. But he's the champion, and he holds the belt for 2, 3. Because you could have started his reign before Roman, and he could still be holding the title. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Granted, I understand injuries and everything else. But to me, this whole company should have been built around him, and the entire tag division from the start should have been built around the Young Bucks.
Yeah.
And just have them be unbeatable.
Now you have to build them around somebody completely different, like Christian. MJF was always going to be there, but you could have had a couple of very good stars, man. You could have made a lot of money, but we can talk about this forever, Mr. Dubbs. Let's go
I know.
on to the next
Let's
match.
get on to the next match. It's the AEW Women's Title. Toni Storm versus Riho. Who's your pick, and what do you think of what they've done with Toni Storm and Riho to build this match, but Toni Storm's character work as of late? What do you think?
Oh man, Toni Storm, timeless Toni Storm. Now, I haven't been keeping up with AEW 24/7 and all the segments and all that, but from what I've seen in the last couple of months, honestly, the timeless gimmick, I really do enjoy it. Freedom is not a great thing for most wrestlers, but it seems to do Toni a great deal of good. I love every single aspect of it, and there's insane amount of potential. There are still some aspects of it, for example, I remember her doing a silent movie in the ad break, but that movie would be her just doing random stuff, moving around randomly, when you could take that concept and expand it and do so much cooler stuff with that, because you got millions of dollars as a company in AEW. It's obvious that she's a great in-ring performer, and that AEW really, really trusts her. Really trusts her to just carry the whole women's division on her back. So just because of that alone, I think with this rejuvenated gimmick, I think she's taking the title, and she's not losing anytime soon, unless we see an injury. Unless we see her suddenly starting to drop the character, this could be for the women's division of AEW, for this title scene specifically, the new Roman Reigns. I see Toni Storm holding this title forever. Although I'm a little scared of Riho, because in the past she has won so many matches that she what, how, when, why, right? That could always happen.
Kenny Omega loves Riho, but Kenny Omega's not there right now.
Oh yeah.
So I don't think Riho's gonna pull a rabbit out of her hat this time.
Mm-hmm. She does also missing in action now. She's not around, so I think the focus on the Japanese wrestlers might be a little pulled back with Kenny not being there. So with that opportunity, Toni is gonna take this, and we'll see what happens to Riho. I wonder if Shirley will come back for a while.
I think you brought a really interesting point up of how Toni Storm is carrying this entire division on her back. And that reminds me so much of when Britt Baker was doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And what I never understood is after she had her incredible run, and then she all of a sudden became second to Jamie Hayter.
Right.
And then she stopped having matches, stopped doing promos.
Yeah.
She stopped doing she was at that point in time when she was on her rise. I thought that was going to attract your Charlotte Flairs,
Right.
your Mercedes Monets, your people to the company, because people want to see Britt Baker, this big star from AEW that's never been in WWE, homegrown superstar. Like, she was the other pillar of AEW. CM Punk said it. Everybody said it. Britt Baker, megastar. Then she just disappeared off the face of the earth. I mean, Jamie Hayter got injured forever ago, and I don't know when she's coming back. If anyone's going to dethrone Toni Storm, it could be Jamie coming back, because that's the story that was being told then. And Tony's got a completely new gimmick. Amazing. I don't think you take that title off for anytime soon. I 100% agree with you. But is it a problem having one woman carry the division? Because Britt Baker said in interviews that she didn't want to be the champion because of all the responsibility, press, and everything else that came with it. And I'm like, isn't that the whole point of being a pro wrestler? You should want that.
Yeah.
You should want the company on your back. You should be doing the Good Morning Americas. You should be carrying that title around, going to every press meeting, every radio show. Yeah. That's what it is. And that's why you get paid top level wages. Like the way wrestling used to work when Bret Hart was champion back in the day, the reason you wanted to be champion wasn't just for those responsibilities that you would have, but it also meant you were the highest paid wrestler in the company.
Absolutely.
Whoever was the champion was the highest paid wrestler because you also brought in the house.
Yeah.
That's how it used to work. That's why nowadays when we have people like The Miz being world champion or whatever, everybody's under a contract. Miz isn't getting paid more than Roman Reigns, whether he's the champion or not. You know what I mean? So it doesn't matter. So it just, again, then becomes a prop. Whereas Toni Storm right now, I was getting a little off topic there, but I don't want to see anything happen to her. And it just seems like every time one woman is carrying the entire division, they get injured.
Yeah.
Jamie Hayter, Britt Baker, Thunder Rosa. They all just, every single time one woman's been carrying the division, and it hasn't been the TBS title because we've only had a few of those champions. It's been the women's title. Whoever's carrying that women's title, just, it seems to be cursed. Like Saraya had it and wrestled one match and lost. Like her only match with the title, I think, was the loss.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. I really love Toni Storm's gimmick. It's super entertaining. I hope she holds the title for a long time. But I just don't get how everybody's getting beaten up. They're not doing 300 days a year like WWE used to. They're doing maybe 100 dates a year.
Right.
So I hope they're okay. I don't know if it's the women. Like, what do you think it is? What's causing all these women to just get injured constantly?
I think it's timing is everything. And when I say timing, doing big moves when they matter, like playing it safe. It's good, man. Like we talked about The Miz a little bit. I like the way The Miz thinks about wrestling. Now I don't like him. Yeah, like don't be overly safe. Sometimes I can see Miz being overly safe, but even then I can understand because like he's been able to wrestle for so many years, barely getting injured, and he's had so many great moments. I think you should focus on your promo, just like Tony is doing right there. Like focus on your character, make a connection with us, and then you can just do a body slam and we'll go, oh my God, did she just hit a body slam? Exactly.
MJF is proven that it doesn't matter. I will get a kangaroo kick or a body slam over more than a 630.
Maybe.
And it's true. It's all about the character work.
And maybe it's because of the fact that there isn't enough people that think like MJF, that think like Toni Storm in the company, that they're left alone, that they obviously, in wrestling, you have to work with your opponent, so they have to go to their speed. And when they're the champion, they're always in high pressure situations, big matches. It's bound to happen. They're bound to slip up once because they're human. And I think that's what's going on. And over the board, I think AEW is run very unprofessionally. It's the huge amount of money that keeps everything together right now, like a glue. But man, if that wasn't there, Like even now, you see Sean Spears, many of the, Cody Rhodes left a year ago, right? It's tough. I think it's people just rushing to do things, wanting that instant gratification instead of taking your time and raking in the money, raking everything. But I think that's it.
Yeah, I agree. Well, my pick is Tony Storm. You picking the same?
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, hold on now. We picked Julia. Okay. I'm looking at what we picked. Besides 2 matches, we're the same right now, but let's continue. Yeah.
The only 2 matches was the TNT, the 20-man battle royal, which who knows, and then you went for your Hope and Powerhouse Harps because you went with your heart.
Yeah,
but you don't actually think that. But you go with Powerhouse.
Exactly.
So we're pretty fair consensus here. The next match, looking forward to, is the AEW Continental Classic Finals.
Okay.
Jon Moxley versus Eddie Kingston. Eddie Kingston in his home state. I mean, I think it's a no-brainer. If it wasn't going to be Bryan Danielson, Jon Moxley, which was my prediction before the tournament started, because I thought this was the G1 style tournament set up specifically for Bryan, because they're not going to let him do the G1. So I thought he was going to win it. There it is again. But I thought Bryan was going to win it for sure. Then once Swerve heated up, I thought it was, put it on Swerve. What I didn't realize about this tournament is that the winner is going to be defending this championship in New Japan.
Oh, okay.
They have the new Eddie Kingston put up the title, the New Japan Strong, and the ROH World title. And you're going to have this third title to be the modern day Triple Crown champion. That didn't mean anything or resonate with me because I didn't follow All Japan and New Japan. What I didn't understand about it was that the wrestling in Japan is one thing, but that for Eddie Kingston, the pinnacle, the highlight of his career was winning the Ring of Honor world title and the New Japan Strong title. That was for him his goal in wrestling achieved, happy, and the fact that he just willy-nilly put this on the line. The story writes itself with Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston. I mean, all the way back to that death match that Kenny Omega had with Jon Moxley, and he went to cover him up. Terrible explosion aside, the idea, everything behind it, Eddie Kingston always hating Claudio and in the Blackpool Combat Club, but never wanting to fight Moxley. You know what I mean? I think the story writes itself, and I think you're going to get a very emotional Eddie Kingston win here.
For the championship, fair enough. I can see him going to New Japan. I'm talking over you, Mr. Dubbs, because you might have guessed. You're frozen. Actually, you can see it through my screen, right? There you go. You're back.
Yeah, I always see it through your screen.
Yeah, what's that? Yeah.
No, that's fine. My pick, definitely Eddie Kingston. I think you're going to get that emotional victory. You're going to get to see the brand new championship too. I don't know if all 3 are going to be amalgamated into this new championship or if he's just going to hold 3 belts with him. Either way, I think it's exciting. And I guess he'll be on, what is the card, the New Japan card on the beginning of the year called again?
Wrestle Kingdom, I think.
Wrestle Kingdom. Yes, you got it. Yeah. So I think Eddie Kingston will be defending it on Wrestle Kingdom as well.
I see that totally happening. Yeah.
Go ahead. And you have other picks.
I mean, we're just going to go ahead and pick the same thing again, but I'm going to approach this from a different perspective. Again, I don't watch it as deeply as you do, that being AEW. And the vibe I'm getting from the social media and everybody else is that people are loving Eddie Kingston again. He's on the rise again with this tournament. There's a lot of positive sentiment around this guy, lots of positive energy. And that's a good thing in wrestling. That will take you far. And that's why I think Eddie Kingston is taking this. You just mentioned that this is his dream, right? He always talks about loving New Japan, the King's Road style or whatever. That's his favorite stuff. So a chance to go to Wrestle Kingdom. He wants it that much. We got already Bryan Danielson doing his thing with Okada there. So yeah, it's obvious that's why he's not winning the tournament. He didn't win the tournament at all. Jay White, he's like a bit of an old story. Anyways, he did everything that he could do in New Japan. I just don't see anybody else like having a good enough reason and also the momentum behind them like Eddie Kingston to be able to win this match. So that's why, honestly, like this might be the most foregone conclusion of the night. Eddie Kingston takes this match and the title.
What I want to touch on from what you said there too about the fans being behind him at the beginning of this tournament, they literally and they hook, line, and sinker got me when I saw Eddie Kingston going down those first few matches. I thought mathematically he was good. because Moxley had so many points and was in the gold league, in the blue league, I just didn't think he was going to have enough points because Brody was undefeated for the first, I think, 3 matches.
Right.
And so I was like, oh, he won't even be able to get to 12 points. He's out. Like, I thought Kingston was out right away. And he came back to be able to get into the finals with Bryan, or the semifinals with Bryan.
Right.
And I was shocked during that match that the fans were 100% behind Eddie Kingston in a match against Bryan Danielson. And Bryan Danielson played it up great. He played the heel fantastic, everything else. But to me, the whole story, Bryan's wrestling with the eye patch, everything else. How is he a heel at all? Any of this. But the fans were to me, number 2 babyface in the company, very, very closely behind Swerve Strickland. And that's over MJF.
Right.
I'm saying both of these guys right now, to me, feel more babyface and more over than MJF. Obviously, in Long Island, it's going to be a different story. MJF is probably going to get your biggest pops of the night. He's at home, defending injured, everything else. But week to week here, Kingston, this week's reaction on Dynamite shocked me. The fans are 100% behind him again. I don't know what it is about him, because to me, I don't love his matches. I love the fact that he's just the ragtag, he's got the pot belly and everything else. It's just like, I think it's a great story. And I love the fact that the fans are behind him. But this match probably has the best storytelling going into this pay-per-view that out of all the matches that they've done so far.
Subtlety.
And so, yeah, if nothing else, this whole tournament did was reignite Eddie Kingston and make him feel like a star.
Exactly.
100%.
Exactly. They better not miss this chance. That's all I'm saying. Oh, you froze again. I was noting down what we picked. But yeah, man. What's the next match? I'll cut this part. Don't worry. What? You froze again?
Waiting.
Double freeze? Oh, Waiting. There you go.
There we go. I know. I just watch on the screen. I'm like, I hear you everything, but I'm just waiting. Okay, so next up we have the TNT no disqualification match: Christian Cage versus Adam Copeland. I think that Christian Cage has been doing the best work of his entire career by far. I love his heel work. I love that he's gotten the whole family over on his, like Nick Wayne, by insulting his late father. Got both the mom and Nick Wayne, got them all because what? Adam Copeland came out to defend Nick Wayne's mom. What's her name again? I don't remember her name, but Nick Wayne's mom, anyways.
We'll call her that.
He came out to defend her, but then gave a concerto to Nick Wayne. And then, so this is why she turned on him in the last match and cost them the last TNT title match. I don't think you can keep beating Adam Copeland is the one reason I think he's going to win this. Just because I don't think you just keep on beating him. But I don't think he needs the TNT title at all.
No, he doesn't.
It is no disqualification. So you can have shenanigans and 6 people beat down Adam Copeland, and that's why he loses. But I just think this is your big signing. I understand he's not the ratings draw that Tony obviously hoped he would be, but you're paying this guy a lot of money.
Yep.
I don't think you just keep beating him, even though I think Christian Cage is, to me, the best heel in wrestling right now. Like, I love the work he's been doing, but he can take the loss.
Yeah.
Right? But the no disqualification is completely in Christian's favor unless we get a surprise, Dolph Ziggler or someone like that show up on Adam Copeland's side to save him. But I mean, it's just the TNT title doesn't mean anything to me. Christian makes it mean something. I don't care to see it on Adam Copeland. He can be going for the world title at any point.
Right.
So I think that title holds him down, whereas I don't want to see Christian Cage go for the world title. He can keep this title and make it mean something. So I want Christian to win. Because if they might even be doing Adam Copeland to retire Sting. So do you have him lose every big match that had in AEW going into that?
Right.
Like, I'm so conflicted on what Tony Khan's mindset's going to be. I want to see Christian Cage win, but I'm going to pick Adam Copeland just because I don't think they're just going to keep beating Adam.
That makes total sense. And this whole situation reminds me of Cody's debut in WWE, let's say. He got in there, won the Royal Rumble, and then, I mean, that's not a one-on-one match, so let's say we discount that. He went on to WrestleMania and lost his first ever big pay-per-view one-on-one match. But the thing is, Cody is young, and they know they got him for years and years and years and years, while Edge will be there for a long while as well. But, I mean, you're not going to have him wrestle every week. Like, Cody, you'll tell him, oh, you're going to wrestle 3 times a week. Cody will be like, okay, yes, sir. And he'll go out there and do it. Edge, his time is more valuable and much more limited. His bump card as well. So I just think it would just send the super wrong message to everybody who's a Edge fan or a Adam Copeland fan or not, to like have him lose this first ever big match. It's like, okay, how am I supposed to get behind this guy then? And so
losing back-to-back matches to Christian.
Exactly.
Due to shenanigans, right? Both of them, right?
Yeah. But at one point, it's not going to matter anymore. And I love Christian. I always liked Christian more than Edge for some reason. But like, you gotta have Adam Copeland go over here. It's just the way it is. And just like you, man, I'm not comfortable with Christian having no title and perhaps going after the world title, which MJF versus Christian could be kind of interesting, even though we know the winner.
I don't think Christian needs to be in the world title scene at all. I think the TNT title is perfect for him. He makes it mean something, and he keeps up his heel promos. It doesn't matter who he's against. Okay. I think Adam Copeland, the TNT title brings him down because he should be on the world title level.
Yeah.
So I think Christian should keep the title. But if obviously it's going to be due to so much shenanigans where Nick Wayne's interfering, Luchasaurus interfering,
kill switch.
Maybe he gets another. Yes, you're right.
Please, Mr. AEW.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. But I think it's hard to book Adam Copeland strong. Well, it's not hard. You rehab anybody, but just his 2 first big matches. I'm sure Adam doesn't care because he's happy to put his buddy Jay over. 100%. They're having the time of their lives getting to work together. Oh man, you can't beat Christian, man. That title makes more sense on him. I'm gonna change my pick on the fly, and because I want him to, and I'm going with my heart as you did with Powerhouse Hobbs, and I'm saying Christian keeps the title due to shenanigans. 1 million people interfering, and Christian keeps the title.
I'm gonna say this, make this quick addition. I think Edge is gonna win, and then sometime soon after he's gonna lose the title, maybe like quickly in one of those deals.
20-man battle royal TNT title shot. I'm an idiot. You can set up the match right there for him to lose.
Yeah.
Either way, Christian deserves to keep that title.
No, I like that pick.
All right, so now we are on to the main event of the evening. From Long Island, Strong Island, New York, your hometown hero, Maxwell Jacob Friedman versus the Samoan submission machine, Samoa Joe. Now, the booking towards this match, I was fine with. MJF's injured. I understood. Keep him out of matches. The whole shenanigans with the devil's mask, all that nonsense. But you actually had me, not this last Dynamite, but a week ago, I didn't care at all before that Dynamite who was behind the mask. I thought it was lame. I didn't enjoy any of it. And then they finally made me care about it.
Right.
Because they literally made me think it can be anybody in the company. They've had Wardlow come out after every segment that had a devil in it. Wardlow's music would hit and he'd come out. And they even had after an attack, he had his hair messed up like he was wearing a mask. They've hinted to Wardlow so many times. They then hinted to Swerve Strickland, which to me, all of a sudden, right there, you have that promo between MJF and Swerve. All of a sudden, who's thinking of Samoa Joe and MJF? Everybody now wants Swerve and MJF. This could have been Swerve's crowning moment, but Samoa Joe's there. I mean, I think MJF is injured in dropping the title, personally. But my God, they made us want Swerve and MJF so bad.
Yeah.
And that week, because of all the different options for who's going to be behind the mask, is it MJF himself? Is it Adam Cole? Is it Roderick Strong? Is it, anybody in the company could literally be, they've dropped so many breadcrumbs. everywhere. Jack Perry, because of the breaking the windshield with Hangman.
Yeah.
Maybe it's Hangman as that was a setup. Who knows? But they made me care. And then they crushed all of that last week on Dynamite and the Go Home show. I couldn't care less anymore. They did it. Like the stupid segment they did this whole month. I want you at your best. I want you at as close to 100% as you can. I will protect you all month, only to hit you with a chair leading into the pay-per-view. But like, you could have been beating him for a month.
Yeah.
You could have been choking him out, putting him in the hospital. You could have just beaten the crap out of him for a month. Why just one chair shot and a muscle buster that like leading up?
Oh, well, I think the main point here is that Samoa Joe has just been a subject of extremely weird booking. Extremely weird booking. I don't know what they're trying to do with Joe, but man,
it was so strange. So very, very strange. I enjoyed the devil thing the week before, and they instantly killed it for me by what they did. And now I don't care about the reveal. The only reveal I think that would be powerful and make sense at this point, well, maybe not make sense, but would be great storytelling, is if it was Britt Baker behind the mask.
Right.
And she's trying to get Adam Cole away, because then it's not Adam Cole, and then she's trying to get her man away from him. And that's why she set all this up, to take everything away, to prove to Adam that all he really cares about are his titles, blah, blah, blah. I think you could have done some excellent storytelling if you made Britt Baker the one behind the mask. And it brings her back to TV, gives her promo time, makes her important. I think it would have been such a treat to have it just be a woman and have it Britt Baker being the best candidate. Because it was my girlfriend that actually brought up first, maybe it's a woman behind the mask. And I was like, Britt Baker would make all the sense in the world. If it's not her, I couldn't care less if it's Adam Cole. I couldn't care less if it's whoever they decide to make it now.
Plus, you don't need the women's title.
Dolph Ziggler. Maybe it's Dolph Ziggler.
Maybe.
Right? So maybe it's Mustafa Ali. It could be one of the guys that coming out of WWE, because that stuff, I guarantee you, we're probably going to see at least one of the released WWE guys on the show, for sure. He always likes to do reveals at a pay-per-view, or big signees at a pay-per-view. But for me, I think Samoa Joe's taking the title because I think MJF needs time off due to injury, and I think that's why. Otherwise, there's not a chance I think MJF loses in his hometown. But I think just because of the injury, I'm going with Samoa Joe. And I hope we get the devil reveal, and that story is done. I hope we get that reveal on this as well.
Well, the thing is, we don't know who the devil is, but we're not alone in that. I don't think Tony Khan knows either. And he's now been completely forced 100% to come up with it on the spot. Like, by the pay-per-view, you got to have an answer. But everybody getting injured with so many unforeseen circumstances coming into play, it's weird. But yeah, I see this match as like House of Cards just crumbling down. Every single thing that was built is going to come crashing down. We're going to have a resolution to everything here, including the devil. And yeah, I mean, I cannot say anything else than Samoa Joe either. I don't know which way it will happen. It can happen in many ways. But the fact is, MJF has two pretty serious injuries. Like, if he just went for a surgery on one of them, he'll be out for a while. But we're talking two. So I don't want him to wrestle in that condition anymore. Actually, I would prefer if he didn't wrestle in this match as well. But, you know, it's the way things are right now. So it sucks. Man, it sucks.
I don't think he would be wrestling if the show wasn't in Long Island. The show was built for him in his hometown. It's a pay-per-view centered around him. And then I don't think he wanted to disappoint his fans. I think he's cutting this one out just because it's in his hometown. If it was anywhere else, I think he would have just vacated the title, or they would have just had a quick choke out by Joe on a Dynamite or something, and then have Swerve take it from Joe at this pay-per-view.
Yeah. Which, my prediction is Joe. And I'm just going to share my sentiments with you. I agree with what you said just a couple of minutes earlier. I wish this was Swerve versus MJF and not the other way. But yeah, that's it.
Well, for me, I think the most important thing that AEW can do to build any of their stars or build up anybody is more vignettes and less meaningless matches.
And less Samoans in wrestling in general. I'm sorry. Like, I just want to get a little angry at that because we got Roman Reigns, Jey Uso, millions of Samoans over there. And now we got a Samoan champion in AEW too. Please, for the love of God, man. They're taking over everything.
Samoa Joe is literally the only like famous Samoan wrestler that I can think of that isn't somehow related to the entire Samoan dynasty.
Yeah.
Right? In some way, shape, or form through marriage or anything else. Like every other Samoan seems to be related to them. Cousins, uncles, brothers, son, nephew, whatever. Somehow related to that family.
Maybe it's because he shares the same name with Roman Reigns. Joe.
The Samoa Joe beat a Samoan named Joe. I always remembered after he beat Roman Reigns that when they were punishing Roman for whatever it was that couple of weeks.
Never forget. Yeah.
Right. But that's the thing is if you want, because I cared most about Joe when they had that vignette where he said, I'm most dangerous when I'm hungry. And he had his whiskey. He was in a suit. Very calm. Low speaking voice, had his whiskey, had a cigar, and he says, and now I'm hungry. I cared more about Samoa Joe in that moment than 30 muscle busters through 100 tables.
Yeah.
Like you need more vignettes to make me care.
Right.
Then I care about what happens after. Then I care about this stuff. But we didn't, instead you gave me an amazing segment between Swerve and MJF, and then Joe just pops up, doesn't get promo time, doesn't, like, and I don't need live promos because certain guys that doesn't work for. Samoa Joe to me just yells too much in his live promos, just too much of a yeller, and I'm just not a huge fan of that. I don't think he's a bad promo. It's just when he gets heated, he just goes, "I am gonna go." It's like that's not my top.
When he's against MJF too, they just both yell.
Yeah, it's just no. I much preferred the vignettes. That was with that suit and so I hope when he wins that title, they go immediately back to that. I want to see him with the belt on the table, placed nicely. Right. He's got his cigar and he says, you know what I mean, and just warns anybody.
Yeah.
I want more of that, more than I need him coming out and coming out to the crowd or whatever promos. Like you can do both, but you need the vignettes for me. For my
taste. Cool if he just like after beating and taking the title, he just like smokes it and says, I love it when a plan comes together and just smiles.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Perfect.
That's all you need.
It writes itself, right? Exactly. It's all you need. A minute, 2 minutes. That's it. That's all you need. And you make us care. Why do we care about Toni Storm now? She's always been a great wrestler.
Yeah.
But now she needs to do so much less in the ring.
Exactly.
Because of her gimmick. The vignettes. That's everything. And I think Tony Khan just needs to learn that there's a place for the New Japan style of just match, 5-star, 6-star, 7-star match. Great. Fine. Have that on your pay-per-views. Your pay-per-views 100% of the time blow it out of the water. So I'm excited to watch it tomorrow. I'm excited to do this watch along. I'm excited for this pay-per-view because I know the matches will deliver. They always do. But on your week-to-week basis, don't make them kill themselves so that half your roster is not on the injured reserve. Because right now, think of how many people are out with injury.
Yeah.
Thunder Rosa just came back. Jamie Hayter's still out with an injury. Where's Pac? When was the last time you saw Pac?
That's my question.
One of the best wrestlers in the world.
Yeah.
What? Ray Phoenix, again, injured for the millionth time.
No, man, they got to do that 6:30 right now in the weekly show.
Like, that's what I mean. Just give us more segments and promo time and cut out 2 matches from every show. Like, you don't need so many 5-star matches. You can have that as your main event.
Right.
So you have something to look forward to and hook the people. Give us FTR against, your Briscoes, like rest in peace. And like, you know what I mean? Give us those kinds of matches as your main event, but not every match on the show has to be that. The Continental Classic was amazing. But a lot of these guys look like they killed each other.
Right.
Danielson is wrestling injured, as you can clearly see. I mean, I don't need Bryan wrestling on my TV every week. I'm cool getting promos and segments every once in a while.
So what you're basically saying is, hey, it could be segments like you just said, but just even if you're doing matches, make sure they have a meaning. That's all.
Yes. Give me a reason to care. Give me a reason to care about the 2 people in the ring. Because you can 100% of the time throw Commander in the ring against just about anybody.
Right.
And it's going to be a spectacle.
Mm-hmm.
The guy can do flips and gymnastics off the ropes. But as I'm getting older, I feel like I'm turning more and more into Jim Cornette every day. Because I used to hate his opinions on AEW, and especially when he hated wrestlers that I really loved, like Kenny Omega. But I need a reason to care about a match. And Kenny Omega, greatest match of the year, in my opinion, was against Will Ospreay.
Right.
But it's because there was a built-in story there. They did have a story going into that match. It was a built-in story that was gifted to them by New Japan, but they had a story going in.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody cared about MJF and Kenny Omega, even though it was a great match.
Yeah.
Because there was no story at all to it. That's the difference. Anytime there's a story being told, Okada against Danielson, again, handed to them by New Japan. But that match was incredible because the story made it mean something.
Substance and presentation. That's what we want from AEW. Yes. Hopefully one day we'll get it, but let's end things here, I think, because we got a podcast coming up tonight and we'll talk more about this. Believe me, you.
Definitely.
But yeah, that was pretty much our very deep thoughts on AEW World's End. We're pretty much the same on almost everything besides one or two things that we decided with our hearts to go differently by. Man.
Yeah. We have pretty strong consensus here on what's going on. One last thing, because it's our prediction show, you need to give your prediction. Ooh. Who is behind the mask?
I'm going to say, go first on this. Okay, maybe if Tony had a longer time to plan this out, it would be someone that made sense. Like you said, Britt Baker, Wardlow, maybe even Adam Cole if he had the time. But now, if he wants to make a big impact, which I think that's what he's going to go for, I think we're going to see Nick Nemeth, which is Dolph Ziggler, Ryan Nemeth, whatever his name is. Yeah. So I'm going to say Mr. Show-Off, Dolph Ziggler.
Nick Nemeth, that's a very strong pick. That was actually who I was thinking. I was just gonna leave it the caveat of whatever a WWE guy is their big signee of the day is gonna do it. So whether it's Nick Nemeth or if it was gonna be Mustafa Ali, but since that is your pick, and I don't want to have the same pick as you for everything, I am going to go with what my girlfriend picked and go with Britt Baker is behind the mask. Make it a woman. Do it. Britt Baker, baby. I want to see it because to me, that's the best story. That would tell the best story because you don't immediately have Adam Cole. Maybe she has to convince him. Do you pick your best friend or do you pick your woman? You know,
right?
Like the story can write itself. You can go in so many directions with it. I think it would be great. So I'm going to go with my pick being a long shot, but I'm going with Britt Baker.
I personally like that it's different. It's not something we've seen ever before. So even that gives it an edge. So.
Perfect. Anyways, thank you all for watching. Catch us on our watch along live on the pay-per-view.
That's right.
As Kero and I will be doing the watch along. We're not sure if anybody else will be joining us on Saturday, but we will be here with you guys and just giving our reactions as it happens. So come check us out for that.
Kenny and Bryan might join us live from the arena for a little bit.
After the show and stuff, and give their opinions because, if you guys aren't familiar, just Bryan and Kenny Baum are both actually going to this event in Long Island. They will be there. So we would like to get their take, possibly maybe get a little insight of what they're looking forward to going into it and what they thought coming out of it. So we'll see.